The vibe around old school anime has always been really intriguing to me, and in the interest of saving you guys the hassle of figuring out what's good or not, I did it for you. Also, I've left timestamps for every single show that I talk about so you can hop around the video if you want. That's it, that's the intro. Cut the Vampire Hunter D is about a vampire hunter named D, shocker I know, and is a pair of movies, just Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. The biggest talking point about Vampire Hunter D is the insane difference in quality between the two movies in every aspect. The first movie feels like a really drawn out episode of a cartoon. The plot feels really bare bones and basic, the characters are forgettable and have zero personality except for D's hand guy, and the animation is kinda booty when you consider things that are much older have better animation. And the movie throws out an ass cheek or blows somebody's brains out every now and then to remind you that it's meant to be edgy, even though it has the plot of a Saturday morning He-Man episode. The original was, without a doubt, a bit shit, but the sequel, Bloodlust, is a complete opposite. Production-wise, everything was changed from the studio to the director and the producer and the source material. You can really feel the growth of the animation and storytelling quality that happened in the 15 years between the two movies. In the beginning, it looks like it's gonna follow the same plot as the first one. A girl gets kidnapped by a vampire and has to get rescued by D. But when we find out the girl has gone willingly, it makes it so much more interesting and glues your face to the screen. There's a question that you want the answer to, unlike in the first movie where the bad guy is so clearly defined and kinda boring. Bloodlust also has much more interesting characters. D is finally blessed with more than 5 lines of dialogue and a personality, and the party of other bounty hunters, especially the lady Layla, breathes so much more into the world and story. Other minor side characters that D runs into on the mission, like the horse seller or the old vampire, are fantastic and make a huge impact in the few minutes of screen time that they have. This is a point that you're gonna hear me bring up a lot in this video, and that's that Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust has really cool aesthetics. It's this really unique mix of sci-fi and gothic, and the set pieces of sprawling landscapes and gigantic abandoned structures that loom in the distance create a really dope vibe. The set pieces also offer tidbits of world building, leading you to think about what led to so many of these abandoned structures. The art combined with the characters create fascinating world building, and that slowly explains why things are the way they are. I'd actually just recommend skipping the original and just watching Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. The first movie isn't worth the hour-and-a-half time investment, and you miss out on nothing story-wise if you do skip it. Also, quick side note, I watched Bloodlust in dub because I couldn't find a subbed version above 144p, and the English voices are really good, so if you're more inclined towards dubs, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is perfectly watchable in English. Hey there, quick announcement. If you're enjoying the video so far, consider joining my new Discord server, the 17th Ward. If you like talking about anime or just chatting shit in general, want updates on when I upload, when I stream, or just finding out where the fuck I go every 3 months, join it. For live stream content, subscribe to my second channel. Also follow me on Twitter. Alright, now back to the video. If you are one of the 3 people who don't know what Initial D is, it's about a prodigal tofu delivery kid named Takumi Fujiwara who discovers the world of Japanese street racing. And it's also the reason why a nearly 40-year-old car costs 40 grand. Initial D encapsulates the 90s and early 2000s JDM aesthetic to a T. If pictures like these are at all appealing to you and you're into cars, Initial D is definitely a must-watch. And if you're not, I'd recommend it even more because you could start a lifelong obsession with one of the deepest and most interesting rabbit holes that exists. But there's more to Initial D than just street racing and cars. It builds up the characters with slice-of-life-esque drama and gives them, and in extension the audience, a reason to care about the races. It shows how the street racing lifestyle can affect somebody's personal life and how all-encompassing it can be. Initial D takes the introverted Takumi and follows his journey of slowly discovering something he's passionate about and finally giving his life some meaning. We see Takumi go from a reserved, bored kid into a passionate person who comes to care about racing and how closely it intertwines with his identity as the white ghost of Akira. Initial D balances the slice-of-life aspect of its story perfectly. It's abundant enough to make you care, but scarce enough to not detract from the main attraction, which is the street racing and car stuff. And I can't talk about Initial D without mentioning the most iconic thing to come out of it, the music. I mentioned the 90s and 2000s JDM aesthetic earlier, and one of the cornerstones of that entire concept is the Initial D soundtrack. Songs like Deja Vu, Gas Gas Gas, Speedy Speed Boy, Nights on Fire, and my personal favorite, Killing My Love, alongside so many others, make you shit yourself as soon as they start playing. It is mandatory that if any song from the Initial D soundtrack comes on while I'm driving, I must commit a felony. I don't make the rules. They add so much more emotion to the climactic moments of each race, making every major event feel so much more memorable because of the unique music choice. The 3D cars look fantastic, especially considering the track record of 3D animation looking like shit. It's made doubly cool considering Stage 1 came out in 1998 with CGI like this, but shows in 2024 look like this. I'd give Initial D around 5 episodes up until the end of the first race. If you aren't into it by then, skip it. Wicked City is set in Tokyo in the 80s where demons and humans coexist thanks to a peace treaty, and when the peace treaty needs to be re-signed, our main character Taki alongside a demon named Makie have to guard the man who has to re-sign it. The thing about Wicked City is that the first 30 minutes and the rest might as well be two different movies. It has a cool world, and in the beginning it sets up this really dope vibe of an old school detective story but set in Japan with demons and shit. But they do the bare minimum in expanding on it in the first 30 minutes just to skip ahead to what they wanted to make. The monster designs are really creepy and unique and reminiscent of the time period, which is pretty cool. But after the 30-minute mark, the movie takes a massive shift. As you watch it play out, you see it devolve from this really cool noir urban fantasy story into some weirdo's edgy fetish fantasy. The rest of the movie is a weird hentai but not really kind of thing. The only thing stopping it from being a full-blown hentai is that they don't show human cock and balls. But that being said, there are a couple of scenes where they're really pushing it. All the story beats are used as rushed segues to the next scene of Makie getting rhymes with grape. Though you could make an argument that all the rhymes with crepe was for the plot and to develop the villains as evil, I didn't really get that vibe while watching. The first time, yeah, fine, you can say that it's for the plot. You see it and you think, damn bro, these demons are messed up, I really hope the treaty goes through. But after we see it for the 4th time, you just think like, bro, can we get back to the story, please? Wicked City was super disappointing because before I watched it, the premise seemed so cool to me. And I knew that there was edgy shit in it, but I heard it was well done. I'm honestly surprised they even keep it up on Crunchyroll. If you're the type of person that goes online and watches gore videos and then goes to the comments and says, hey, that's not even that bad, the demon inside me is used to such depravity, and want to watch something that has over-the-top messed up shit in it, then go ahead. But if you value your time, skip Wicked City and watch anything else I talk about in this video. Despite how much I like Cowboy Bebop, I have surprisingly little to say about it. The adventures of Spike and the gang are a joy to watch in every episode, and the blend of episodic adventures and a more serious overarching story keeps every episode fresh and intriguing, and leaves you with enough questions at the end of one to rope you into the next. The characters all have these crazy personalities, and throwing them in wacky scenarios and watching them interact is the highlight of the show. Every character has an intriguing backstory that's slowly revealed as you continue watching, which explains why they act the way they do, and makes them feel really human. They're all flawed just like a real person is, and the way they talk and act makes them feel like real people rather than fictional characters in a show. This is all possible though because of the extremely solid foundation that the show's animation and well-paced directing creates. It's the type of good that's so good you don't even notice it's happening, but when you pay attention to it, do you really realize the genius behind it. The music is also back-to-back bangers, with the old school boomer jazz music creating that immaculate space western aesthetics. Oscar-worthy characters combined with everything else I mentioned make every episode feel like a movie. It's 26 episodes long, but it'll feel like 10 by the time you're done with it. If you aren't convinced, give it at least 5 episodes before you decide if you want to skip it or not. It's okay, but there isn't really any point to watching it anymore where you can just watch Ultimate. There is one character who gets a bit more development in the original than she does in Ultimate, but that's pretty much it. The original came out before the manga ended, so they had to make an anime original ending, and all the anime original stuff is kind of whack. The music is good though. Ninja Scroll follows the protagonist Jubei on his journey to just survive in an Edo period Japan, but a chance encounter with someone from his past throws him into a life and death struggle. As you can tell by that description, the story of Ninja Scroll is really hard to describe. The best thing about Ninja Scroll is how the story keeps you hooked in. It's constantly feeding you new information and lets you figure things out alongside the main characters, playing into the adventurous feeling of the movie. It's gory and has a lot of strong sexual scenes in it, but Ninja Scroll is what I like to call tastefully edgy, unlike something like Wicked City that I mentioned before. The mature themes are strong, but they're relevant to the plot and the character's development. Whenever something messed up happens, you see how it affects the characters that it happens to. The characters are interesting and make you care for the relatively small amount of screen time that they're given. It's really hard to talk about it, so all I can tell you is to watch it. I really liked it, so if you believe in my taste so far, believe me when I say that Ninja Scroll is pretty good. After playing Phantom Liberty and re-watching Edge Runners last year, I was itching. No, I was fiending for some more cyberpunk content. And then I remembered Ghost in the Shell. For those of you who don't know the plot, it's about a cyborg lady named Motoko Kusanagi and her group of government agents trying to find a hacker in the city. Though the story seems kind of basic, it takes a backseat, and the focal point of the movie are the themes and the characters and all the thought-provoking philosophical questions about what it means to be human. Though all the deep shit is cool and all, what I really loved about it was, again, the world's aesthetics. Where Vampire Hunter D had these big gothic spreads and landscapes, Ghost in the Shell has these compact, claustrophobic streets filled with people. There's barely any greenery or nature and is replaced by massive skyscrapers. There's also an insane amount of detail put into the world. An example is how the main character never blinks. All the cyberpunk stuff as usual looks dope as fuck, and you can see a lot of things in Ghost in the Shell that would inspire more recent cyberpunk content like 2077. The colors are all really desaturated and grey, making it look muted and depressing, and combined with the godlike soundtrack, it gives the whole movie this really eerie, ethereal vibe. But story-wise and plot-wise, Ghost in the Shell is one of those movies that requires a full-on post-game debrief and analysis to understand what you just watched. It's only 18 minutes long, but if you're not into the sort of story that I described, skip it. And finally, the big boss of old school anime movies, Akira. My experience with Akira is very different from the average person because I read the manga long before I watched the movie, so I kinda knew what was gonna happen and what to expect. But after watching it, I realized that the manga and the anime are completely different. Akira isn't considered the GOAT because of the story. Nah, it's the animation. Even in shows today, nearly 40 years later, you watch something and you'll just be looking at still images with voices in the back and subtitles. But with Akira, it's different. As someone who studies animation, it was so surreal seeing shit that I studied in the classroom being so on display. Every single frame has something moving in it. There isn't a single moment in the movie where there isn't movement. The sewer scene, the riot scene, and all of them, there's always something to look at. And if you ever go back and rewatch the movie, your eye will be attracted to something different than the previous watch. Something that was really hard to ignore once I realized it was that there's a distinct lack of music in the movie. There will be a scene where you'd expect some high-octane soundtrack in the back, but it's just silent. All the sounds you hear for 90% of the movie is diegetic, except for a few scenes. I don't know if this is like a hot take or not, or if it's just an objectively incorrect statement, but I didn't really like the story of Akira that much. It's really hard to put my finger on it, because yeah, it was interesting, but it wasn't like super face glued to the screen type of interesting. I have to confess, I did at some points just hop on my phone to watch an Instagram reel or something, because Akira is definitely really slow in some spots. Even though the animation is really cool, I have a really hard time recommending Akira, because so much of why it's considered the GOAT is stuff outside the movie, like the production and all the post-game analysis stuff, similar to Ghost in the Shell. If you like movies where after finishing it you want to go and watch 10 hours of explained videos, Akira is definitely up your alley. But just the animation isn't enough to carry the whole movie. So if you want something that's in and out, I wouldn't really recommend Akira. And yeah, that's it. Honestly, what drove me to go on this small adventure of watching older anime movies was that I thought the aesthetic of some of these movies was cool as hell, but I also wanted to see these movies from the lens of somebody with absolutely zero nostalgia bias. And I have to say that nostalgia does definitely play a large role into why some of these movies and shows are as beloved as they are. I'm not saying that they've aged badly or anything, but I think what people just find enjoyable has changed a lot. And I also think that a lot of people fall into this weird pressure of having to like these older movies because they're classics or whatever, and are scared to say they didn't like it. But it's fine. The whole point of this video was to urge you to explore something that you might not have, and just see if you like it or not. Maybe you've gotten bored of recent anime, and hopefully this video helped you regain that interest, because that's definitely what happened with me. Watching some of these older movies really got me out of this rut that I was in when it came to watching anime. Thank you so much for watching. This video was really fun to make. I got to watch a lot of anime that I didn't expect myself really watching. I'm trying to get back into streaming on Twitch, so this is the link. Come watch. I'm gonna try and do around 2 to 3 times a week, but I've been saying that for so long. But just come and follow it so you know when I am live. Other than that, thanks for watching. Bye bye.